Do you experience major overwhelm and anxiety, almost to the point of panic-ridden, and also have challenges with your diet? Because if you do, then this video is going to give you a lot of answers to those challenges. So first and foremost, let's talk about the overwhelm. Let's talk about the anxiety. Sometimes there will be things that trigger it, or sometimes it's a cumulative effect, or sometimes it's both, right? And the tendency that I see is with people that have this, because I've had this myself, is that it's nothing new. It's a pattern of behavior in terms of, if you ask that person, has that been something that's really new to you, or have you experienced anxiety, overwhelm in the past before? And some will say, well, I have, but nothing like this. Or they will say, no, I haven't, and this is completely new. But what happens is they have other clues that suggest that it's not anything new. And that's some of the clues are, because I had this myself once again, is not being focused, not being concentrated. Some people would even call them perhaps ADD. And that's one thing that I can be quite honest about, and think that that's been a lifelong struggle for me. And it's a lot of the reasons why you have exhaustion and fatigue, and it's a lot of reasons why you have anxiety, and now you're not sure about what to do about your diet. And that's someone who can't sit still, who can't stay focused, who's just go, go, go. And at some point, the candlestick burns at both ends. It's gonna meet in the middle. And that usually results in that overwhelm, that exhaustion, that fatigue, to the point where it's out of control. And what I say first and foremost, these videos are always for informational purposes only, and that you need to consult your physician. And typically the FDA allows for the permitted use of nutritionals to improve function, and that's what we always do. But if you have that overwhelm and it's out of control, I always recommend going to a hospital, going to triage it, because I've seen it be that bad where you're concerned that there's imminent danger here, maybe a stroke, a heart attack, a faint, or something that needs to get you ramped down. And that's acute, and that's not typically what these videos are going to be able to do. So do your due diligence. Now, what I would say about that is, when you do go to the hospital and they run blood tests on you and CT scans on you, and do a lot of labs, even if they're not complete, what's always great about that is that they rule out red flags, because that's why you were concerned in the first place, right? That's why you went there. You didn't want to hemorrhage, you didn't want to have a aneurysm, or you didn't want to have something that was a heart attack, something that was acutely life-ending. And when you get the red flag, negative, nothing going on in that department feedback, that's also another sign to say, okay, well, I know that something's wrong with me and something needs to be figured out, but the good news is it's not life-threatening, it's not imminent, and there's a certain amount that I can control and dial down with my mindset, and accepting that, okay, something's wrong, but not to the point where it's red flags wrong. And probably if you look in the mirror and look back at your behavior, you can say, hey, I did some things to contribute to this as well. Like go, 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 perhaps drinking alcohol, having stimulants, and not having the best diet, and pushing your body. And at some point, pushing your body loves you, and your body will respond when you give it enough encouragement over time. So anyways, as far as coming back negative from the hospital, you can use that information as well to be able to, even if you didn't go to the hospital, to say, okay, I know that there's nothing seriously wrong. And you could say, well, I don't know that there's nothing seriously wrong, then go to the hospital. But if you didn't go to the hospital, then you can assume, okay, there's nothing seriously wrong. I have to dial it down, and I have to encourage. So what I typically recommend in those instances is, A, knowing what it isn't, that it's not a serious, life-threatening thing, and B, using your ability to breathe and think and be able to calm that down a notch. It's not going to make it go away for sure, but you can calm that down a notch. Now, as far as food goes, what I think happens is you know when certain foods irritate you specifically. Like a lot of people will say they have really hard times processing vegetables. And when I hear that, I know, okay, there's GI disturbances that are leading up to this and have led to this that haven't been properly managed throughout the entire whatever you've been doing, because this is what's happening to you and it wasn't completed in its entirety in terms of healing what needed to heal and figuring out what needed to be figured out. But ultimately, when it's the vegetables and it's a problem, there's my wife driving by, and when it's a problem and with vegetables and certain fibers or even just produce and things that are made from the earth, a lot of the times if they're not cooked properly, your body has a problem with flora. And I think a lot about unhealthy bacteria, and I think about even like malnutrition, malabsorption, celiac-like challenges. And those are things where I just say, hey, the 30-second version of that commercial is that you should have a nice shaggy rug, and yours is like AstroTurf now. And ultimately that the villi and the healthy mucosal lining with the immune system and using nutrients effectively. And when you have those raw vegetables, that's a tell that needs support. So ultimately, starting really slowly, really steaming your vegetables and really figuring out low fructan type veggies. And I'll give you a list of them. It's too long to name if you DM me and say, hey, give me a list of those low fructan veggies, because those are less fermentable. And I tell people those will be the ones that tend to be like onion and garlic. Those things can be really fermentable, and that can create a lot of irritability in the GI tract. So not only do those vegetables have to be steamed, they can't be seasoned, because it's those seasonings that make it worse. And you need fiber. And there's other sources of fiber like spaghetti squash, all those really good legumes that you could be getting, and you could be getting lots of good fiber at the end of the day. Now, I'm not a fan of spinach because it can be high in oxalates, but leafy green vegetables you can swap out and put arugula in there. I know some people say sweet potatoes have a lot of oxalates as well, but you got to get some fiber. And if you can get things like Jerusalem artichoke, which are prebiotic stuff, or you can get Brussels sprouts or cruciferous vegetables, and if you can do those things slowly, interject them into your diet, and potentially some nutritional yeast if you can process those effectively. And ultimately you can, I do make recommendations for people to take lecithin, like a sunflower lecithin, because that will give some good choline, especially if they're vegan. But those dietary concepts have to be done in minimal amounts. And now, as far as protein goes, the protein, I tell people, like, more so even if you're a vegan, is you need support, just like you needed support with cooking those vegetables and making them less fermentable and still maintaining their nutrients in there so it's not hard on your GI tract. For the same reason you have that in the first place with nice shaggy rug becoming AstroTurf, is also going to be a challenge for you to process all your nutrients and your proteins. And ultimately supporting that, like at the cellular level, just getting amino acids in a nutrient, maybe in a supplement, can be suffice. Now, I'll tell people, remember, like, whatever you weigh in pounds, divide that by 2.2, and then you can times that by 0.6 or 0.8, because that's an optimal amount of protein for someone. And you could say, well, that's not enough protein for me. Well, that's probably why we got into this situation in the first place, because we were doing too much protein and we weren't balancing it out with healthy other B vitamins. And while the proteins will have good methionine and good B12, it's not going to have a lot of folate with it because you're having challenges with getting good greens and utilizing them. And not only that, but there's inflammatory problems that slow down the pathways that getting too much methionine and amino acids from the protein without being able to digest them create on your body. And so that's why I'm really for lowering your total protein to that amount. And then the last part is getting some form of healthy fat. So whether you're getting olive oil or you're getting some eggs, or you're getting you're getting sort of omega fatty acid in a supplement, you need healthy fats, you need healthy proteins, and you need fiber. And ultimately, you also need to understand that the stuff that led you to this in the first place, now no one's judging, but we got to look at, okay, there's got to be a change in not only my diet and figuring out how to just stack wins and layer some more and more improvements as I go along. I need to control my freak out. Now, I'm not saying your freak out isn't legitimate. I've been there, and I know it's completely death-defying, if that's a good word. Death-defying. I know it's not a good feeling, but that's where breathing and movement and taking your mind off of what's going on, getting out of the house and getting oxygen and breathing healthy oxygen, drinking water, and maybe getting minerals, and just making sure you're not dehydrated. Those are foundational stuff that you have to do if you're asking the question, what should I be eating to calm this down? Because eating is part of the entire picture. So is your mindset, so is your breathing, so is your movement, so is your purpose in life, so is all those things. And a lot of people will say, well, I don't have that. I don't have purpose. I don't have joy. I don't have that same fulfillment and contentment. And I would say, again, if this is a serious problem, you need to go to the hospital and get this taken care of. If it's acute like that. If it's more like I don't have that overall joy and contentment and motivation and drive, then there's a lot of challenges that are going and taking place in your body that need to be reversed and addressed right away. And that's okay, because your body can heal. But the time for making concessions and not being all in on this is past. And that's where lifestyle changes. And one of the really good things that I think is super helpful for me, and I did in another video just recently, as I am attempting to continue to help my health and feel more energetic and really feel great, is to bring my body fat percentage down. And I talked to someone the other day, and they said, like, with their coaching clients, they said that, he said to me, like, if you're at 18% or 20% body fat and you want to be at, say, 10%, 12%, whatever it is that you are and what you want to be, he said to me, you have to think of, like, are you eating like someone that has 10% body fat? And if you're not doing that, then that's why. So what I would say as well is, are you having a lifestyle that someone who is super healthy and energetic has this lifestyle? And that's a tough pill to swallow in terms of, like, how dare you judge me, Joel? Like, I have all this shit going on in my life, and you're holier than thou. Like, everyone has mess going on in their life, and ultimately putting fires out and dealing with them and not procrastinating on them and prioritizing them and changing how you think about them, eliminating them altogether, getting other people to help you and be aware of them, but addressing them and tackling them is part of why anxiety and overwhelm and figuring out the right diet are not the only things. Hopefully that made a lot of sense. If it did, let me know. Look forward to helping you with your fatigue, exhaustion, and in this case, overwhelm, anxiety, and not knowing what to do about it.